Yes.
Question. So have you found it kind of odd that the person who's running for Secretary of State is the one who supported this Alec bill, and that the other person who ran for Secretary of State is probably going to be behind bars? I mean, and so we have to just, I mean, can you get involved in, I mean, does Common Cause get involved in actual political races as well, since you're a lobbying group? You're not really bound by 501c3, are you? Or?
So we don't endorse candidates. So we don't get involved in those races.
Policies.
Endorse policies, yes, and we do. And so that's primarily what I do in Sacramento, is endorse different policies.
I just find that I didn't know that. I just find that very interesting.
Well, what's interesting about the Padilla bill is that the primary contributor to his 2006 and 2010 campaigns was AT&T, and AT&T is a member of Alec. So that's how you get. So AT&T would go to Alec and help write model legislation such as a telecom deregulation bill, and then get a state senator to carry that.
So actually,
that's
right. Just real quick, is there a list somewhere of all the Alec members?
Of all the Alec members?
Yeah.
So if you go to alecexposed.org, they have like a database of all the known bills, and I think they also have they should have a list of all the corporations, I think, that are known members of Alec. I'm not sure on the state legislators side if that's public.
Because it'd be kind of interesting to correlate, because there's a wealth inequality documentary that was recently released about
Robert Reich.
What's that?
Robert Reich's documentary.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That one. Basically about how we're moving towards an oligarchy society where there's like a smaller group of people that basically go behind closed doors and pass legislation that works towards them to make them more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
There.
Are we doing Q&A?
I figured we can people jump in here. Yeah, that's fine.
Just real quick, I had a follow-up to this question.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking about the Padilla bill, and which I think deregulates telecoms, telecom community. I think that's the gist of the bill.
That was the gist of it, yeah.
And I learned about it from Derek Cressman, who's running for Secretary.
Yes, I'm sure he probably paid attention to that.
We'll campaign against it if he's ever elected. But my question is, on that issue, as a policy issue, has Common Cause come out and taken a stand on telecom deregulation or any of the issues around telecom stuff?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So we do a little bit on that and a little bit tied to that, like with media reform. But in California, we haven't done as much. We've done more on telecom deregulation at the national level, I should say. It just hasn't been a priority here in California for one reason or another. Yeah.
And Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, if we're doing Q&A. Yeah, I wondered if you could get, because a lot of people may not know, and it seems to be kind of scattershot. That was one of my questions, is they get involved in so many different things. Is it? I'd like if you could speak to some of the national bills that they have passed or that they're trying to pass, because I know they're trying to prevent rooftop solar in a lot of places. And then the gun thing, it just seems scattershot. I don't know where all these things.
Involved in so many different issues.
Yeah.
And they do tend to be more politically, I guess, on the Republican side of the spectrum in terms of how the issues line up. But they get involved in everything from, so they're involved a lot in a lot of voter ID bills that we've seen try to get passed, the gun bills that I mentioned, the stand your ground laws. They're huge in environmental deregulation. It is very scattershot, and I think it depends at any given time on the membership of Alec, the corporate membership. So when they have like a lot of communications group like AT&T as members, you know, they're clearly representing their interests when they're paying, like, say, upwards of a $25,000 membership fee, and they have a very big seat at the table.
So it's whoever has the most money gets their bill passed.
Yeah. So like tobacco is in the room. I'm trying to think. I'm sure big coal. So in California, one of the areas we're trying to focus on, because we haven't seen a lot of Alec bills being proposed in the legislature, so we're sort of tracking that as they happen, but we haven't seen that many. But an area that we're trying to focus on is actually corporate membership, because here in Silicon Valley, Google, Facebook, Yahoo, forgetting one, a bunch of those groups, we're trying to call on them to leave Alec because they're all members right now. And so that's sort of one area where we're trying to be a little bit more active here, and hopefully we'll have some success. We're going to do a big action on May 14th. There's a Google shareholders meeting. There's going to be a big protest there for that. So, yeah.
Is it also true that within these meetings that they have where they write model legislation, that the legislators don't have veto power over any of the things that they propose?
So I'd have to review the exact structure because I mentioned that they have these I think it's 9 task forces within Alec, and I don't know exactly how, not being a member myself, I don't know exactly how their priorities move. So according to Alec, any spokesperson you ask will say that the corporations themselves don't get sort of final say over what model bills come out, that like the final voting committee, the final task force where everything gets vetted through, that's all made up of legislators, they say. And so their claim is that because of that, it's not really lobbying because it's the legislators that are coming up with legislation. But you have to go through the 9 different task forces to get there that are made up of corporations. So did that answer your question? Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Yeah.
Stand up here.
I mean, from one point of view, isn't it better to have Alec at least out there in the open?
Open.
That people can at least storm against rather than be hidden behind closed doors and just.
But they are mostly.
But it's not exactly out in the open because all of the negotiations in terms of where the bills are coming from, that's all happening behind closed doors. And also the only reason why we know what Alec bills are is because we have sort of some of these good government groups who are out there actively tracking.
Could you join Alec?
What's that?
Could Common Cause join Alec?
I don't know if we'd ever tried. I think if we could pay the dues, which I don't know if we could since we're a nonprofit, but yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how they select their membership, but I think, yeah, if you pay, you could pay into the group and be a member. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know that they necessarily be, I don't see them necessarily now as sort of being out in the open. I see them.
Well, there was an argument in the autism community because the change in the insurance reform for the autism community was a big issue. And Alec it's a very hard sell with Alec. But many people in Alec are very in favor of it.
Interesting. So in that one instance, I guess you're saying that the policy in question wound up being out in the open just because. It depends on your point of view. There's something called the Combating Autism Act, which is up for reauthorization, and a lot of problems with it. And because it just collects data on people with a very vague diagnosis, but it doesn't provide anything in the way of services. And you've got a group called Autism Speaks that is a very controversial group that is pushing for insurance reform in every state so that parents with autistic kids can get behavioral services paid to insurance. And that's been a big battle because no behavioral services are regulated by the FDA or anything else like that, but now insurance companies are going to have to pay for them. So that was one of these issues that's kind of been very difficult that's been out there. And what was Alec's role in that? Or?
Well, Alec being a big spokesperson for the insurance industry was apparently were attempting to skew the coverage in some kind of bizarre way that I didn't understand.
I didn't follow that particular issue with Alec, so I don't know if I can speak to it specifically. But.
Well, for everybody with a neurological disorder from Alzheimer's on, to get all the other systems, this has been kind of an issue. Okay. Because when the corporations are making the decisions, it leaves people with communications disorders out.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Is there any way, or have you found within your organization that if you ask a legislator, to his or her face, are you a member of Alec? Do you get the truth?
I think it probably depends on who you ask. I guess I would know if I was getting the truth. Yeah, I guess you could ask. I would say in California, most of the legislators that I deal with are not members. And you wouldn't have to be a member, so Senator Padilla wouldn't necessarily have had to be a member of Alec to carry that bill, right? So.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
What can we do to fight that kind of
to fight back against Alec?
Yeah.
Like I said, here in California, it's a lot about calling in corporations to leave their membership. So, like I mentioned, the different groups in Silicon Valley are kind of the ones we're targeting right now: Google, Facebook, Yahoo. Just as an example, after the Stand Your Ground incident in Florida, a whole bunch of they got very bad press, and so a whole bunch of corporations left. I think McDonald's, a lot of fast food industries, just like random groups that were part of it didn't want to be associated with Alec. So I would say, yeah, joining one of the protests that we're organizing. If you go to commoncause.org/CA, there's more information about some of the events that will be heading up around these corporations in Silicon Valley.
And is the primary goal to I mean, dismantling these kind of organizations is one thing, but I mean, in some ways they can be good. But as long as they're transparent about what they're doing, so like the closed doors thing is kind of shady, right?
Yeah, the transparency thing
like
is an issue.
Not knowing which bills they're trying to pass through.
Yep,
that kind of thing.
and the tax exempt status is a huge one. Why are you
so
claiming to not be lobbying if that's all you're doing? Like that's really all that they're doing. And the fact that the IRS hasn't taken action on this in several years is really bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Because the IRS has come out against some very small nonprofits and made these bizarre statements about them lobbying, but then they're kind of ignoring the elephant in the room on this
I
one
mean,
particular side.
this is conjecture, but I would imagine inside of Alec that the people who are behaving something like quasi-legislative aides, like in the legislature, the people we elect don't do the grunt work. They have these younger, lawyer grads that are doing all the writing. They're typing up the Word documents, and then they talk it over with the sponsor, who's the legislator. I would imagine inside Alec that the people, the lawyers who are actually writing the Word documents, which are the proto, laws, are probably people who are on leave from the corporations who are members of Alec. And then they hand it to the legislators who are paying $50 to be members, and then they spread out to all the states that have Republican senates and assemblies, and they infest these things into the bill writing process in those states. And plus those corporations then probably start funneling campaign contributions to their viruses who are bringing these Word documents. If you pulled open the Word document in the legislature and looked at the property, you might probably still find Alec there in the properties. But maybe they're smart enough to strip that out now because of in the past that's happened. So that's probably what's going on. You're too polite to say it.
No,
you're nonpartisan, but
no, that's what's going on. And like I said, that there are these databases now of groups that are beginning to track these bills, and so the only way, save from actually going to their file and seeing Alec in the file name somewhere is actually matching language. And
yeah,
so that's what we're
they're
doing.
doing what professors can do now to find plagiarists. You can
Yes.
do word analysis, paragraph analysis, to find if there's an 85% similarity between the original proto-document that Alec has produced versus what the legislative people in each of the state legislatures that are, again, run either in the lower house or the upper house by a Republican majority, so they can force these things through. So nothing happens in California for the last couple of years because California has had a majority and a supermajority until these three crooks got, arrested in both the upper and the lower house of the legislature. So there's nothing good about Alec.
And you
There's no
alluded to the other.
saving grace about it. It's just malevolent and evil.
We didn't go that far. But you alluded to the other side of it that I talked to a little bit when I was speaking about the Padilla bill, which is the other side of this is the campaign contributions, because I mean that gets into a whole other monster of like if you look at the corporations that are actually members of Alec and then you go and look at what their campaign contributions were, they line up very well.
Oh, yeah,
who's
sure.
giving the most, right?
Two-pronged assault.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what's going on. So, and we actually did a report. Our national group, Common Cause, did a report on Alec several years ago, so it's a little bit old. But in the report itself, if you go to our website, it's there, and it actually has numbers about campaign contributions for some of these top members. So, hopefully that's helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a little off topic, but is Common Cause involved in any way with the New Hampshire Revolution? Are you
I'm not
participating in
sure
that?
about
New Hampshire Revolution?
Mm-hmm.
That's Larry Lessig's campaign to show up at every campaign event and ask what they're doing to get money out of politics.
Oh, interesting. I follow Larry Lessig pretty closely, and I wasn't aware of this particular effort of his.
Maybe he's trying to be covert. Maybe I
Is
should
this a more
shut
recent
up
one? Because I
about
feel
it.
like he has new ideas every time.
It sounds like a pretty good one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
This is a comment, thinking that maybe nothing happened to the nothing has happened to the IRS. So as Jody says here, that perhaps the virus has infiltrated the IRS.
Yeah, I can.
Why you're not getting any action on it.
No, the IRS is short-staffed right now. Yeah. Since the sequester, they've been just hammered down like you
And for decades, actually, they were defanged at points in the past. So that the part of the IRS that is tracking high-income people and corporations is extremely defunded, and the only ones left at the IRS are people that go after us.
One more thing, they put in a new computer system, which according to my accountant is like consults the IRS all the time, is the worst computer system in the world. They've messed things up beyond belief. So these guys are, believe me, I got a letter recently saying, I owe the IRS $7 million.
That's cool.
Probably the people that did the first cut of the ACA computer system, the same contractors.
Right, they're Canadian.
Clearly a mistake.
Not a big deal.
Okay. Any other questions?
Great.
We want to get Sarah.
Thank you.